Reading through the Bible in 1 year, April 16th, Leviticus chapter 20, Psalms 25, Ecclesiastes 3, and 1 Timothy chapter 5. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, and remember, this is a continuation, saying, do not continue in the ways that the people who lived in the land before you lived. Don't do the things that they did. Right now, we're going to go into more detail on the human sacrifice and immoralities that those people did, that that God was against. So the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, you shall also say to the sons of Israel, any man from the sons of Israel, or of the aliens sojourning in Israel, who gives any of his offspring to Molech. Again, that's that calf that has the holes cut in it, that has a fire burning inside it, and you would place your living child into its arms and they would be burned alive. Anybody who does this will be put to death. The people of the land shall stone him with stones. The reason for this is so you don't even have to touch him. I will also set my face against that man and will cut him off from among his people, because he has given some of his offspring to Molech, so as to defile my sanctuary and to profane my holy name. If the people of the land, however, should ever disregard that man, when he gives any of his offspring to Molech, so as to not put him to death, then I will set my face against that man and against his family. And I will cut off from among their people both him and those who play the harlot after him, by playing the harlot after Molech. As for any person who turns to mediums and spiritists, say King Saul, to play the harlot after them, I will also set my face against that person and will cut him off from among his people. You will consecrate yourselves, therefore, and be holy, which means to be separate, to be different, peculiar. For I am the Lord your God. You shall keep my statutes and practice them. I am the Lord who sanctifies you. If there is anyone who curses his father or his mother, he shall surely be put to death. He has cursed his father or his mother. His blood guiltiness, literally the guilt for the blood, is upon him. If there is a man who commits adultery with another man's wife, or one who commits adultery with his friend's wife, the adulterer and the adulteress shall surely be put to death. Remember when this is in the Pericope Adulterae, where again, I don't think that it's originally from that text. I think it was inserted afterward, but where they bring the woman who has been caught in adultery to Jesus. Where's the guy? He should be brought as well. If there is a man who lies with his father's wife, he has uncovered his father's nakedness. Both of them shall surely be put to death. Their blood guiltiness is upon them. If there is a man who lies with his daughter-in-law, both of them shall surely be put to death. They have committed incest. Their blood guiltiness is upon them. If there's a man who lies with a male as those who lie with a woman, both of them have committed a detestable act. They shall surely be put to death. Their blood guiltiness is upon them. If there is a man who marries a woman and her mother, it is immorality. Both he and they shall be burned with fire, so that there will be no more immorality in your midst. If there is a man who lies with an animal, I lost my spot. He shall surely be put to death. You shall also kill the animal. If there's a woman who approaches any animal to mate with it, you shall kill the woman and the animal. They shall surely be put to death. Their blood guiltiness is upon them. If there's a man who takes his sister, his father's daughter, or his mother's daughter, so that he sees her nakedness and she sees his nakedness, it is a disgrace, and they shall be cut off in the sight of the sons of their people. He has uncovered his sister's nakedness. He bears his guilt. If there's a man who lies with a menstruous woman and uncovers her nakedness, he has laid bare her flow, and she has exposed the flow of her blood. Thus both of them shall be cut off from among their people. You shall also not uncover the nakedness of your mother's sister or your father's sister. For such a one has made naked his blood relative, and they will bear their guilt. If there is a man who takes his brother's wife, it is abhorrent. He has uncovered his brother's nakedness, and they will be childless. And now this doesn't mean somebody who, like you're, the redeeming brother. I forget the term for it, but if you were to die, if you were married, and you hadn't had any children, right, and you were to die, and you're the firstborn, your brother could marry your wife in that point for the sake of the name of the family, and then his first child with her would be called after your name. But that's a different thing from this. You are therefore to keep all my statutes and all my ordinances and do them, so that the land to which I am bringing you to live will not spew you out. Moreover, you shall not follow any of the customs of the nation which I drive out before you, for they did all these things, and therefore God has abhorred them. Hence I have said to you, you are to possess their land, and I myself will give it to you to possess it, a land flowing with milk and honey. I am the Lord your God, who has separated you from the peoples. You are therefore to make a distinction between the clean animal and the unclean, between the unclean bird and the unclean, and you shall not make yourselves detestable by animal or by bird or by anything that creeps on the ground, which I have separated for you as unclean. Thus you are to be holy to me, for I, the Lord, am holy. I have set you apart from the peoples to be mine. Now, a man or a woman who is a medium or a spiritist shall surely be put to death, and they shall be stoned with stones. Their blood guiltiness is upon them. And that's all the notes. Let's go on to Psalms 25. To you, O Lord, I lift up my soul. O God, in you I trust. Do not let me be ashamed. Do not let my enemies exult over me. Indeed, none of those who wait for you will be ashamed. None of those who deal treacherously without cause will be ashamed. Make me know your ways, O Lord. Teach me your paths. Lead me in your truth and teach me, for you are the God of my salvation. For you I wait all the day. Remember, O Lord, your compassion and your loving kindnesses, for they have been from of old. Do not remember the sins of my youth or my transgressions. According to your loving kindness, remember me, for your goodness' sake, O Lord. Good and upright is the Lord. Therefore he instructs sinners in the way. He leads the humble in justice. He teaches the humble his way. All the paths of the Lord are loving kindness and truth to those who keep his covenant and his testimonies. For your name's sake, O Lord, pardon my iniquity, for it is great. Who is the man who fears the Lord? He will instruct him in the way he should choose. His soul will abide in prosperity, and his descendants will inherit the land. The secret of the Lord is for those who fear him, and he will make them know his covenant. My eyes are continually toward the Lord, for he will pluck my feet out of the net. Turn to me, and be gracious to me, for I am lonely and afflicted. The troubles of my heart are enlarged. Bring me out of my distresses. Look upon my affliction and my trouble, and forgive all my sins. Look upon all my enemies, for they are many, and they hate me with a violent hatred. Guard my soul and deliver me, and do not let me be ashamed, for I took refuge in you. Let integrity and uprightness preserve me, for I wait for you. Redeem Israel, O God, out of all his troubles. And that's all the notes. Let's go on to Ecclesiastes chapter 3. King Solomon continues, "There is an appointed time for everything, and there is a time for every event under heaven. There's a time to give birth and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot what has been planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to throw stones and a time to gather them, a time to embrace and a time to shun embracing, a time to search and a time to give up what has been lost, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear apart and a time to sew together, a time to be silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. What profit is there to the worker from that in which he toils? I have seen the task which God has given to the sons of men with which to occupy themselves. He has made everything appropriate in its time. He has also set eternity in their heart, yet so that man will not find out the work which God has done from the beginning even to the end. I know that there is nothing better for them than to rejoice and to do good in one's lifetime. Moreover, that every man who eats and drinks sees good in all his labor. It is the gift of God. I know that everything God does will remain forever. There's nothing to add to it, and there is nothing to take from it. For God has so worked that men should fear him. So, rather, that which has already been, and that which will be, has already been. For God seeks what has passed by. Furthermore, I have seen under the sun that in the place of justice there is wickedness, and in the place of righteousness there is wickedness. I said to myself, God will judge both the righteous man and the wicked man. For a time for every matter and for every deed is there. I said to myself concerning the sons of men, God has surely tested them in order for them to see that they are but beasts. For the fate of the sons of men and the fate of beasts is the same. As one dies, so dies the other. Indeed, they all have the same breath, and there's no advantage for man over beast. For all is vanity. All go to the same place. All came from the dust, and all return to the dust. Who knows that the breath of man ascends upward, and the breath of beast descends downward to the earth? For I have seen that nothing is better that man should be happy in his activities, for that is his lot. For who will bring him to see what will occur after him? We go on to 1 Timothy chapter 5. Paul continues, "Do not sharply rebuke an older man, but rather appeal to him as you would a father, and to the younger men as brothers, the older women as mothers, and younger women as sisters, in all purity. Honor widows who are widows indeed, who are really widows. But if any widow has children or grandchildren, they must first learn to practice piety in regard to their own family, and to make some return to their parents, for this is acceptable in the sight of God. Now, she who is a widow indeed, and who has been left alone, has fixed her hope on God, and continues in entreaties and prayers night and day. But she who gives herself to wanton pleasure is dead even while she lives. Prescribe these things as well, so that they may be above reproach. But if anyone does not provide for his own, and especially those of his own household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. a widow is to be put on the list. This is the list for distribution. So these are the people within the church who don't have the means to take care of themselves anymore. Think elderly people who can't work on anymore, typically who don't have children to take care of them. That's what's being said. This is that list that they're talking about, right? This is the daily distribution referred to in Acts chapter, I'm thinking 5. It might be 5 or 6. Anyway. Now, let me see. So this widow is to be put on the list only if she is not less than 60 years old, having been the wife of one man. This isn't typically saying that she, basically what they're saying is they're looking for somebody who is a true Christian at that point, because we're supposed to take care of our own family first, rather meaning the family of those in the church. We need to take care of those people first, then people outside of the church family. So, having a reputation of good works or for good works, and if she has brought up children, if she has shown hospitality to strangers, if she has washed the saints' feet, if she has assisted those in distress, and if she has devoted herself to every good work. But refuse to put younger widows on the list. For when they feel sensual desires and disregard of Christ, they want to be married, thus incurring condemnation because they have set aside their previous pledge. At the same time, they also learn to be idle. They go about from house to house, not merely idle, but also gossips and busybodies, talking about things not proper to mention. Therefore, I want younger widows to get married, bear children, keep house, and give the enemy no occasion for reproach. For some have already turned aside to follow Satan. This is because of their idleness, right? If any woman who is a believer has dependent widows, she must assist them, and the church must not be burdened, so that it may assist those who are truly widows, who are widows indeed. The elders who rule well are to be considered worthy of double honor, especially those who work hard at preaching and teaching. For the scripture says, "You shall not muzzle the ox while he is threshing," and "the laborer is worthy of his wages." Do not receive an accusation against an elder except on the basis of 2 or 3 witnesses. Those who continue in sin rebuke in the presence of all, so that the rest will be fearful of sinning. I solemnly charge you in the presence of God and of Christ Jesus and of his chosen angels to maintain these principles without bias, doing nothing in a spirit of partiality. Do not be hasty to lay your hands on anyone, thereby share the responsibility for the sins of others, and keep yourself free from sin. Also, no longer drink water exclusively, but use a little wine for the sake of your stomach and for your frequent ailments. Some of the sins of men are quite evident, going before them to judgment, meaning that they basically wear their sins proudly, right? They don't worry about it. But for others, their sins follow after. Ravi Zacharias is a great example of this. For as long as I've been a Christian, I've heard that he's been this great spiritual leader. But now that he's died, now everything starts to come out about all of the issues that he had. All of these deep sins that carried not only through him, but also through his ministry. Likewise also, deeds that are good are quite evident, and those which are otherwise cannot be concealed. I'm going to go ahead and bring up the rest of the notes here. All right, there we go. And we will be back tomorrow. Behold, the word of the Lord.